Specially crafted for this event. I'm now going to take a moment to introduce Ms. Denisse Soto, the CEO and mixologist of Chingona Miks. Without further ado, Denisse.
How are you, everybody? Welcome in. So today I'm going to present the Oceania. We know everything, a lot going on in the world, all around it. That's why I think we all should be conscious about everything, be kind, spread love, and respect to every single living being that is around us. So that's why I'm as a mixologist. I'm from Mexico, and I came here to Chicago to follow my dreams. And I always usually like to use something that it's sustainable, like our mezcal right here. This is a sustainable mezcal that also cares to give back to the growth of more agave. And we're using the open water for the non-alcoholic version. The open water is located in Chicago, and it's a woman-owned local business. It's really good. They care to give back to the oceans. And our cocktail right here is a nice blue cocktail, the Oceania. It's a kiwi, cinnamon, and lemon syrup. For the lemon syrup, we did the blue color. That's why we have a nice blue cocktail. And we're using the fresh lemon juice, the fresh kiwi juice, and the sustainable mezcal. What they say, it's one seed for your sip. So right now we're going to be building the cocktail. I'm going to hold it for you. Thank you so much. So for those who are on Zoom and that they have their ingredients, we're going to do the 1.5 ounces of the syrup. We're going to do 1.5 ounces of the kiwi juice, and 0.5 of the lemon juice. For the non-alcoholic version, we're going to be using the open water. This is the sparkling water. And for the alcoholic version, we're going to be using the mezcal verde, 1.5 ounces of the mezcal verde. Okay, so now I'm going to start building the one with alcohol. And after that, I'm going to be doing the one without alcohol. So first, we're going to be doing our mezcal verde. We're going to be doing the 1.5 ounces. For this, if you have a speed pour, you can do 6 counts. So you basically just pour it. When you pour it, you're going to count 6 seconds. And then we're going to be doing the syrup. On the syrup, we have the cinnamon. So basically, I cook the cinnamon with the lemon juice, and it's a take on this ice cream in Bolivia. They use the lemon juice, cinnamon, and sugar for it. After that, we're going to add some ice, and then we're going to pour it. And of course, the kiwi juice, 2 ounces of the kiwi juice. Once we have it ready, we're going to add some ice, and we're going to shake it really good. But when you use your shaker, you want to hold it from the top so it doesn't explode. So, yeah. And you're going to do this. You're going to tap it. And pour it. So this is our alcoholic version. And we're using the dehydrated kiwis. For the dehydrated kiwis, you can just use a regular oven. You put it all the way on the bottom of your oven and 160 degrees, 24 hours, and then you can dehydrate basically anything. And it's so good. You preserve it, and it's pretty organic too. So all our ingredients here are organic. Our cups are totally eco-friendly. That's what I always use. And if I use any straws, I always try to use paper straws. If not, just no straws. We don't need them. Okay, so now we're going to be doing the non-alcoholic version. So for this one, it's the same thing. We're gonna do the fresh kiwi juice. If you wanna make this at home, you're gonna use 3 kiwis or 4, depending on the size of the kiwi. You're gonna blend it. So okay, so we're gonna do 2 ounces of the kiwi juice, 0.5 of the lemon juice, which is basically 2 counts seconds. And then we're gonna be doing the syrup, 1.5 ounces. And we're gonna be adding the ice now. Shake it. And once we shake it, we're gonna add the sparkling water to the shaker. So when you put it on the cup, it doesn't stay all the way on the top, and it like mix up. So we're gonna add the sparkling water. Just move it around a little bit. It's gonna give a little nice fizz to the cocktail. If you have a strainer, you just top it up with the strainer. And right here we have our non-alcoholic version. So yes, I hope you like the cocktail. If you already tasted it, cheers. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I'm located in Chicago. We're growing our business. We're doing some events, private events, some cocktails. We're friendly, all vegan friendly. So every single ingredient we use is vegan. We have the Bloody Mary, micheladas, and some other new mixers that we're coming up with. And yes, we're doing some different events in Chicago, private events, anything that you need. If you need help with your weddings or anything else, we're here to build your special cocktail menu. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Well, as a former manager, bartender working in the service industry, I can't wait to taste this. It looks incredibly beautiful, and I'm sure it's going to taste delicious. Thank you so much, Denisse. Folks, we're really excited now to move into the next segment of our program, where we're going to welcome 7 different panelists who are filmmakers and producers being showcased in this year's Film Fest, and we are going to invite them to start us off with a great start to this fest by toasting to how we all individually can turn the tide. So at this moment, we are going to start welcoming in over Zoom our panel of filmmakers. And the first I'm going to introduce is Ms. Melissa Fondaskowski, the impact producer for Exposure. I'm going to read their names off first, and then we're going to go back and hear from each of our filmmakers and producers individually. We're also going to welcome Katie Johns, the co-director of Let Us Breathe, Alicia Tamarchenko, co-director On the Fence Line, A Fight for Clean Air, Robin Frohart, artist and director of the Plastic Bag Store, the film. We're also going to hear from Peter Nelson, director of The Pollinators, from Slater Jewel Kemker, the director of Youth Unstoppable, and also from Jackie Guerrero, director of Our Generation. So let's go ahead and spotlight Melissa. Melissa, what is your 10-word toast for us to turn the tide?
Standing in for Holly Morris, I have her 10-word toast that I'll read to you. Dear humans, let's gamify non-consumption. Budjo slava Ukraini.
Thank you, Melissa. Next, we're going to welcome on screen Ms. Katie Johns. Katie, what is your 10-word toast to turning the tide?
My 10-word toast is that students in Chicago show that change is possible and happening.
We're going to hear from Ms. Alicia Tamarchenko. So Alicia, what would you like to share with us to get us kicked off in the right way?
Sure. Thank you so much, Vince. My 10-word toast is no man is an island, together is the only way.
We're in this together, and it's going to take collective impact to achieve our goals. Thank you, Alicia. Next, we are going to hear from Robin. So Robin, welcome to the kickoff of the One Earth Film Festival's 11th season. What words of wisdom would you like to share with us?
Thanks for having me. My toast is we should tell stories to remind us that we are nature itself.
We cannot separate ourselves from the environments where we live. That is incredibly prescient advice. Thank you so much. Next, let's hear from Slater Jewel-Kempker. Slater, great to see you on this panel. What is your 10-word toast to turn the tide?
Springtime comes. Russian tanks get stuck in the mud.
Now, we are in solidarity across the world with our brothers and sisters, so thank you so much for reminding us. And finally, last but not least, let's hear from the director of our generation, Miss Jackie Guerrero. Jackie, what's your 10-word toast?
Mine is, the world's song is plucked in multilingual tones of aspiration.
Well, this is certainly a film festival that embraces diversity of thought, of background, and of ability. So we're so excited that you are reminding us of that, and thank you for your leadership. Folks, we are so excited now to actually try these fantastic cocktails. So I want to invite all of us, both. Welcome. Glad you guys are here. Thank you all for being here. We've got a full house here in Chicago at the plant. And so now I want to invite everyone here, as well as all of our friends and family members around the globe, to raise a glass and to toast to turning the tide. May our efforts be successful. Salud.
Welcome everyone, welcome to the plant. My name is John Adel, and I'm the founder and director of Bubbly Dynamics, which is the owner and operator and design team behind the plant. The building that you're in right now is a former pork packing facility, nearly a century old, and these days we are focused more on vegan food production and generally vegetarian products. There are 22 businesses here, all food businesses located within these walls. We're almost 100,000 square feet. We focus primarily on closing loops, and so we're trying to find ways to find the embodied energy within the building, taking advantage of the concrete, the floor drains, things like, what can a building do well? So this was a food production building, so that's what it does best. And so we look for ways to take advantage of that. So we find ways to harvest things like carbon dioxide from Whiner Beer Company downstairs and inject it into photobioreactors to grow algae, into grow rooms for microgreens and basil, cardboard, grains, heat, oxygen. These are all things that can be cycled back. And so the plant is about creating economies of scale for small businesses that would not be available to them if they were operating on their own. So with that, we're going to do some Q&A down in the tap room later, and anybody that has questions, we'll have a discussion also with Brian Taylor down there as well. Just one last thing about the plant. So the food businesses here do a wide variety of things, from baking and brewing and chocolate making, kombucha, vegan gelato, and lately a great deal of research. And so working towards alternative proteins, looking towards growth stimulants for agriculture that are naturally derived and safe and non-toxic for the environment. We've dumped enough pesticides and fertilizer down the Mississippi to kill everything in the Gulf, as if BP needed any help with that. And so it's time to figure out ways to do that with what's around us, working within the waste stream. So with that, I'd like to welcome back Vincent Gomez, who directs the community engagement team at Lincoln Park Zoo. He is committed to advancing equitable access to nature and environmental education in the Chicago region. Take it away.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you, John, for that really wonderful welcome. I'm so excited to be back here at the plant. This actually was one of the first places that I found inspiration from when I was beginning my career here in Chicago as a nature-based educator and horticultural therapist. So thank you for your leadership, John, and thank again all of you here and those of you joining us virtually from around the globe for the 11th season of the One Earth Film Festival. This year, we are highlighting a theme of turning the tide. We have been through a lot the last several years, especially since the last One Earth Film Festival last year, and we've been challenged both socially, mentally, and morally. But the films that we are going to see this week are intended to inspire us and catalyze transformation within us that can be translated into actionable opportunities to improve the human condition in our local communities as well as globally. We're also very, very appreciative for the continued support of all of our funders and all of our sponsors that make this film festival, as well as other opportunities curated by the One Earth Collective possible. So I want to take a moment first to welcome Miss Mary Carol Murphy. She is the Major Gifts Officer for Chicago Public Media, which includes Vocalo, WBEZ, and please join me in welcoming Miss Mary Carol. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince, and welcome everyone. Cheers, Mr. Elliott. I'm Mary Carol Murphy. WBEZ, which is the NPR Chicago news station, Vocalo, which is the country's first urban alternative music public radio station, and as of last month, the Chicago Sun-Times, which is the oldest continuously published newspaper in the country and the hardest working newspaper in America. Thank you. It's my honor to welcome all of you in this room and around the globe to the One Earth Film Festival. Thank you to all the filmmakers for all the hard work that you put into these works of art for us to enjoy, and we can't wait to watch them. Chicago Public Media has been a proud media sponsor of the One Earth Film Festival for many years because at the heart of our mission is a firm belief that powerful stories and informed public discourse are essential ingredients in creating vibrant and equitable communities and strengthening our democracy. We provide regular national, local, and international coverage of environmental issues to our 2 million followers because of the tremendous importance of this issue. At the local level, for example, WBEZ recently shared the state's ambitious plans for electric vehicle ownership, revealed United Airlines plans to use jet fuels made from sugar water, corn, and garbage, and explained the smart technology being used in the Great Lakes to monitor climate change. Vocalo inspires listeners in small ways to do good in their communities, such as joining a cleanup effort before the Douglas Park Summer Smash Festival, which is just a couple miles from here. Our goal in covering the environment, as with everything we do, is to amplify the public conversation and tell stories that provoke thought, entertain, capture emotion, and most importantly, inspire action. The best way to connect with WBEZ and Vocalo is through our mobile apps and website. So again, welcome to the launch party and the festival, and thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much, Mary Carol. Thank you so much for your continued support and representing WBEZ. Folks, we're also very, very honored as well to be welcoming a very important leader here in the Chicago environmental and policy space, Ms. Angela Tovar. Ms. Angela is has worked actually as an urban planner, nonprofit manager, climate and environmental justice advocate for over 15 years. In 2020, Angela was appointed as the Chief Sustainability Officer for the City of Chicago by Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Angela has committed to centering the City of Chicago's climate and sustainability agenda on equity, focusing on mitigating the environmental harms experienced in Chicago's most overburdened and underserved communities. Thank you, and welcome, help me welcome Ms. Angela Tovar.
My name is Angela Tovar. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer with the City of Chicago, and it is an incredible honor to be here tonight to formally open the One Earth Film Festival for the 11th season. I want to thank Ana Garcia Doyle and the many staff and volunteers from the One Earth Film Collective, for curating this incredible lineup of films, and for all of the important program that you lead year-round to foster thought-provoking dialogue on pressing environmental issues. Yeah, it's really important. Okay, so to kick off this celebration, I want to acknowledge this year's festival theme, which is Turning the Tide. This year's film lineup inspires us to take action to combat climate change and environmental racism. And I want to thank One Earth for amplifying the voices of Indigenous leaders, of our leaders on the front lines, the various youth voices, and many others. While hearing these stories, I challenge myself and all of you to allow for those most impacted by climate change to guide our solutions to this crisis. I want to speak for a minute on how the tide is turning here in the city of Chicago. This is truly a pivotal moment for our great city. Like many folks in this space, we're moving with urgency to mitigate the disastrous effects of climate change, which, as you all know, compound the already existing challenges that we're facing right now and while we're grappling with this pandemic, as well as existing socioeconomic inequities in the city of Chicago. But our climate transition to a carbon-free, resource-efficient, equitable green economy is within reach, and in 2021, Mayor Lightfoot announced 4 strategies under the umbrella of the Green Recovery Agenda to help us get there. And this includes accelerating Chicago's commitment to 100% renewable energy by 2025 and 2035, putting the city on a pathway to equitable decarbonization in our built environment, which is the largest source of emissions. 70% of our carbon emissions come from the built environment. Ensuring deep and equitable infrastructure and programmatic investments in all of Chicago communities, prioritizing historically disinvested communities on the south and west sides, and most importantly, updating the city's climate action plan. The first time since 2008, we have a soon-to-be-released climate action plan that will help set new ambitious targets for the city and really reignite our commitment. And we know that a just and equitable climate future for the city of Chicago requires catalytic investment from everyone, especially our governmental partners. In 2022, the city in our Chicago Recovery Plan announced a record-breaking historic $188 million towards climate and environmental justice priorities. It's the single largest investment of its kind in the city's history, so we're very proud of that. Thank you. And it truly feels like this is the moment now, with this investment coupled with the strong network that we have in the city of organizers and advocates that are trying to hold us accountable every day, and the recent passage at the state level of the Illinois Climate and Energy Jobs Act, Equitable Jobs Act, which puts the state on a pathway to 100% renewable energy by 2050, plus the major climate investments that we're seeing at the federal level through the bipartisan infrastructure law. So Chicago is uniquely positioned to realize this moment, to maximize investments, and to drive that just and equitable climate future that we see is possible. And so looking forward to turning the tide with all of you all, and looking forward to a week of great films and really great dialogue. So thank you.
Try that again for our virtual audiences. Thank you, Angela. Another round of applause. Folks, it wouldn't be 2020 if we weren't still rolling with the punches when it comes to our virtual experiences, but thank you for your patience and thank you for sticking with us. Also, a quick aside, Angela, thank you so much for your leadership. It's really, really inspiring to know about all the initiatives that you are leading, that the city is involved in and the state as well. It's really critical for us to work together to change the tide, so thank you. Next, we are going to hear from the One Earth Film Festival's Executive Director, Ms. Anna Garcia Doyle, who is a force of nature and a very dear friend. So join me in welcoming Ms. Anna. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. It's great to see all of you here. Oops, I shouldn't do that. I'm messing up your computer, Vince.
It's okay.
Okay, thank you, Vince, for being our MC tonight. And to our hosts, John, Carolee, and team here at the amazing plant. How is this? Is this amazing or what? This is amazing. Amazing. To Mary Carroll and WBEZ and Vocalo for your ongoing support. To Angela for officially opening our 11th season. And so much inspiring stuff happening at the city. Thank you for your leadership. And to each of you for being with us. I'd like to share a couple of jokes with you, if I may. A nod to this year's festival theme of Turn the Tide. So where does a killer whale go for braces? The orchodontist. Sorry. What did the magician say to the fisherman? Pick a cod, any cod. Knock, knock. Water. What are you waiting for? So yes, what are we waiting for? It is now time to take bold climate action to turn the tide. It is high time, as the most recent IPCC report tells us. It is past time, as many of the stark films in this year's festival lineup show us. So why are we waiting? Perhaps it's overwhelm, the sense that nothing we do will ever be enough to meet the scale of the climate crisis. Perhaps it's our attention, which is scattered and split amongst the daily doings of our lives. Perhaps it is a sense that this crisis is far away. Wildfires on a distant coast, drought and desertification in the global south, a problem for future generations. But there is hope, a window of time that scientists say we still have to write a different story. A chance for the power of film, the power of stories, to bring something that seems worlds away up close. From a distant recognition in our headspace to an up-close breaking open of our heart space. And once our hearts are involved, stories can make us want to get our hands involved too. They can fire us up and make us want to get doing. So let's get doing together. According to NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, tides are turned when water moving away from the moon resists the gravitational forces that attempt to pull it in the opposite direction. Let us be that water. Let us resist the gravitational pull to go in the same old direction. Let's turn the tide on our climate crisis. What are we waiting for? Thank you.
Resistance, resilience, perseverance. These are the themes of our time. Thank you, Anna, for grounding us, and thank you for making this possible. This platform is such an important opportunity for us to change how people feel and change the way that they behave in society in partnership with nature. I was really moved listening So thank you, Anna. I'm sorry, I just got a little emotional for a second. But let's keep it moving. We're going to hear now from Ms. Sue Crothers, the founding director of the Young Filmmakers Contest, presented by the One Earth Collective. Sue will be joining us via video. So we're going to take a second and cue Sue, and let's give her a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. In our 10th year, the Young Filmmakers Contest is celebrating with 150 submissions, 2 of which are international recognitions from Australia and Turkey. Our mission has always been to elevate youth to address the impacts and inequities of environmental issues through the creative medium of film. And each year we see a different theme of concerns from the younger generation of activists when it comes to the climate crisis. And this year, the message was very clear. No more apologies. Or to quote Greta Thunberg, no more blah, blah, blah. The urgency we face is to act. There were many raw film submissions that don't speak of hope, but instead of the expectation that it is now or never that we turn this tide. And the pandemic may have impacted the ability of these young filmmakers to get outside and film, but it didn't stop their creativity and their will to share their voice. 40% of our submissions were animations. And this evening, I would like to share with you 2 of those animations, our youngest winner and our postgrad winner. It's a taste of a very creative award event that we have in store on March 12th at 3 p.m. And I hope you'll join us and tune in. But until then, I would like to present Bad Bugs by Bryn Wright and Endangered by Tim DeBlois. I hope you enjoy these films and these incredible young talents.
Breaking news. These closer section.
Bad bugs. This is a hornworm. Hello! He's kind of cute, but they're bad for your garden because they eat your tomatoes. Yum! You could use pesticides, but that kills the good bugs too. Instead, get some ladybugs to eat the eggs. Now here's a black widow. It's not harmful for a garden, but they're harmful for kids. And they hide in mischievous places. One idea is to let some lizards live in your yard. This is a grub. They're bad for the grass because they eat the roots. You know who likes grubs? Crows. Just cluster them up and feed them to the birds. If you use natural solutions for your bug problems, your garden will be a happy and healthy place.
All right, those are really exciting films representing creative ideas and creative messaging tactics from the next generation of leaders, but I'm going to argue that these are leaders right now. This is incredibly inspiring. So we are going to take a moment right now to appreciate these young filmmakers and these leaders right now. So we are going to welcome to the screen Tim DuBlois as well as Bryn Wright so that we can raise a glass to them as well. Tim, congratulations, great work. We loved it. What would you say was the most exciting part of making your animated short?
Probably actually animating it. Like I built all the props and everything, and I don't know, it was exciting actually making the puppets come to life. I don't know.
What would you say to another young person who's seen that film and wants to take action to protect bees? What's a way that they can get involved after being inspired by your film?
Just kind of watch what you're doing because your actions cause problems for other beings.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. Congratulations on your film, and we look forward to many more things from you in the near future. Next, our next director and filmmaker, Bryn Wright. Bryn, congratulations. What an amazing film. Bryn, talk to us about those amazing clay figurines in front of you. What was it like making?
What?
I said, go ahead and tell us about it. What was it like making them? Which one was your favorite?
It's kind of hard to choose favorites because they're all really I don't know how to explain it, but they're all really basically when making a character you have to be passionate about it. You don't just want to just done.
Brent, why was making this film important for you? Why did you want to do it?
I wanted to teach people that sometimes like people don't understand that some bugs are like really harmful for the environment, and some people can't really tell the difference.
Well, Bryn, you've already made a difference, and thank you so much for being a leader and being such an amazing creator. We're really inspired by you. Keep it up.
Well,
Folks, the next segment is now going to take us into a moderated filmmaker panel. So we are going to take a moment to introduce our panelists as well as our moderator. The first panelist I will introduce is Miss Tara, documentary producer, impact strategist, and former Working Films George F. Stoney Fellow. First documentary on the fence line, Fight for Clean Air, globally, most recently at the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Glasgow. Let's give a round of applause for Tara. Will be Robin Frodhart. Robin uses puppets, film, and installations to tell tragic comedies, stories about the banalities and absurdities of modern life. Her specialty is using simple materials, often trash, to create meticulous worlds. So our conversation with both Tara and Robin will be moderated by the host of WAMU and NPR's nationally syndicated daily talk show, 1A, Miss Jen White. As many of us already know, the show is heard on over 440 public radio stations across the country with 4.5 million weekly listeners. This is a pre-recorded segment, so sit back and enjoy.
So Tara and Robin, the two of you take very different approaches to telling stories about the environment. Tara, your documentary On the Fence Line takes us to Philadelphia and the fight to close what was the East Coast's biggest oil refinery. What led you to this story?
I'm actually from the area. So I grew up about 45 minutes west of Philly. And at the time I was a senior in college doing my undergrad, trying to figure out what I wanted to make for my senior thesis film. And the summer before I started my senior year, the refinery exploded. And it was a huge event in this area that I kind of couldn't ignore. I think I had grown up with the awareness that the refinery was there, but I never really thought about or processed how dangerous it could be, or the effects of living in a city so close to such a major polluter. So after the refinery exploded, I remember following the story in the news and seeing these photos of these women who were living on the fence line at community hearings with these really emotional expressions, wearing these bright yellow t-shirts that said Philly Thrive. And I remember first coming across an image of Sonia Sanders, who's featured in the film, wearing these bright yellow peace earrings, and also just having this look of devastation and outrage that no one had been listening to them when this happened. And when I saw that photo, I knew that I wanted to go to Philly and talk to residents about what was going on, because they were mostly upset about the fact that no one was really listening to them.
It's really interesting to hear you say you grew up with this refinery as part of the landscape, part of the community. What did you think about it before that explosion?
I just thought it was industry. I did grow up in the suburbs, so I was always around land. And when I drove into the city for any reason, it was just another structure that was there. So in some ways, approaching the story was also kind of an examination of my own privilege, having grown up outside of that arena.
Now, Robin, your film, Plastic Bag Store, uses, humor, performance art, craft, to help us examine our consumption habits. Walk us through the development of this project, because it's very intricate.
Yeah, it's a lot of layers. But I'm primarily a theater artist, and I make puppets and puppet plays and installations. And so the plastic bag store, originally the idea was that it was going to be just an installation that was going to be a fake grocery store in a real storefront that just sold plastic bags. And so I collected thousands of plastic bags and like sculpted fruits and veggies and meats and designed all these satirical products and just made a grocery store's worth of like fake food out of plastic bags that I had collected from the trash. And then, you know, through the process of creating this installation, I had read that all of the plastic that was ever made still exists because, you know, nothing eats plastic. It breaks down into smaller pieces, but it's just sort of forever. And I started to sort of imagine, you know, that like a straw that was in my Happy Meal as a child, however many years ago, like that I used, it's still out there somewhere potentially. And that was kind of like a new abstract way of thinking about plastic and this idea of like there not being in a way, and that, you know, things that we throw away will be potentially, you know, our record in the future for archaeologists potentially trying to study who we were and what was important to us. And so I wrote this story, a narrative that's about, you know, people in the future excavating our plastic trash and kind of basically completely misinterpreting its function and what these things are in a sort of humorous way. And I primarily use puppetry as my, you know, main art form. So this was all a live performance that happened inside this fake grocery store. We were actually set to open this whole live experience in Times Square on March 18th, 2020, which was a pretty bad time to open a play. So we had to sort of pivot during the pandemic, and we filmed the live puppetry and created this film as a way to share the project with people who, well, with the world, since we couldn't share live theater.
Now, Tara, when you hear Robin describe Plastic Bag Store and you think about your own film, do you hear them in conversation with one another in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. What I took away from Robin's film was impact and lasting impact. And what everyone has been experiencing in Philadelphia is that the impact of this explosion, and even before the explosion, just 150 years of refining oil here, that doesn't go away. And now the city is talking about remediation of soil, and that's going to be a years-long process. So I definitely see how those two align.
Robin, what about for you? When you think about Tara's story of people trying to fight for clean air and fighting against the presence of environmental pollution, can you see that in conversation with the film you made?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of what the Plastic Bag Store is trying to do is like, you know, that with the installation, with the fake grocery store, you know, that people come and experience all of this stuff together. It's like making this thing that's designed to be invisible, visible, like by not putting it away or hiding it in a landfill. It's sort of like, you know, we collected it, we saved it, it's here, you can be absorbed in it. And I think that often, yeah, that like the refineries and the waste collection and landfills often gets tucked away into neighborhoods and parts of the world and parts of the country with people who have been, you know, consistently marginalized and not listened to, and their health concerns not taken seriously. And that sort of like feels like a way where it's not seen by everybody. And it's like, it has a real damaging effect. And, you know, I think that the environmental justice angle of the problem is huge because it does, like, there is no way and it has to go somewhere. And often these things get put into neighborhoods where people are unable to advocate for themselves or don't have as loud of a voice in society.
And Tara, this is a key component of your film, this feeling of invisibility and who's impacted most by pollution. Tell us more about the community you profiled in On the Fence Line.
Yeah, so the community that is featured in On the Fence Line are mostly low-income residents in South Philly who have been in South Philly for years and years and years through many generations. And that was one of the greatest joys of making this film, was hearing all of their family stories and their deep roots to this neighborhood. And kind of speaking to what Robin was saying about visibility, this refinery is very clearly right across the street. When you are on the streets of South Philadelphia, you see the structures looming just beyond that gate. And the explosion was really one of the first events that made this issue very visible to much of the region. Because beforehand, people were just quietly dying, and they are the people who are most affected by the pollution and the toxins in the air. So Philly Drive gained a lot of people power through this. And also the way, kind of similar to what Robin was doing with her play, was when I first met them at a parade using art, Philly Thrive, they created these very bright signs, and they created these houses out of cardboard boxes and painted them bright yellow to get attention, to bring attention to an invisible issue that had been overlooked for so long.
You've mentioned Philly Thrive a few times, and this is the grassroots group that was organizing to try to get something done about this refinery. Tell us more about the key people who are part of that group.
Yeah, so in the film, 3 residents are featured: Sonia Sanders, Carol White, and Rodney Ray, who are all members of Philly Thrive. So Philly Thrive is an environmental activist organization in Philly that centers mostly residents in South Philly who have been living for years and years, and also combined with residents of West Philly who have been concerned about this issue and have had more access to information than maybe people in South Philly did.
One of the tensions we see in the film is between residents of South Philly and West Philly who are concerned about air quality, and other people who are concerned about jobs. And that's a tension that we see. People saying, we need this refinery to be open. If it closes, we'll lose however many thousands of jobs. That's going to have a broader economic impact on the area. How has that played out after you finish the film?
Yeah, I think with the sale to Hilco, there was some hope there because Hilco promised community involvement. I know Rodney Ray, who's featured in the film, he's a former refinery worker, and he's been working with Hilco to get some kind of apprenticeship set up with people living in South Philly. So it's still playing out. I think with warehouses, light warehouses coming through the Bellwether district, there will be some economic growth with all the jobs that were lost from the PES refinery closing, but that also remains to be seen.
Robin, I want to hear from you a bit about the role you think art plays in highlighting issues like environmental pollution and other issues of social justice. What role do you think art has to play there?
Well, I think that storytelling in general is super important to give people context. I think that, sometimes, if you were just like list a bunch of numbers about how many plastic bags are made or end up in the ocean or animals that are killed, like it's hard to visualize or have a connection to numbers. And it also just feels entirely just tragic and overwhelming. And so at least, with my work is often humorous, I hope. And I find that that's like a way to, it like relieves some of the tension and allows people to absorb a little bit more. I think audiences, if they can laugh, they trust you a little bit more to follow you down like a longer story. And I think, yeah, people need something, we are always creating patterns and creating stories about who we are and stories about our lives and narratives of, constantly, like that's how we absorb information, and that's how our brains work. So I think that like being able to tell a compelling story and to keep people with you on a larger journey, like will have a greater impact, or at least people will be able to absorb the complexities instead of just sort of like shut down and just be like, wow, that's a lot of plastic bags.
Yeah,
I can't think about that right now.
Yeah. Both of your films deal with this question of disposability in consumerism, but the disposability piece of it really stood out to me because, Tara, in your film, it's the disposability of people. And in your project, Robin, it's our reliance on things being disposable, even though they never really go away. And I mean, Tara, how are you thinking about what it says about us as people, as humans, that without even really paying attention to it, we've sort of come to accept that there are certain people we're willing to let slip through the cracks for us to have access to certain things?
I mean, I think at least putting this in the context of just everything that we've kind of experienced over the past couple of years with the pandemic, it's that the systems that we have in place are very broken for people to be seen as disposable. And I think what I've kind of taken away also from this film is environmental justice is linked to so many other issues like racial justice, medical equity, housing justice. Who decided that low-income residents were going to be the ones living in housing projects along the fence line of a refinery? So to say that's disheartening is an understatement. But I think in the face of some like an issue that just seems so enormous, I really do come back to there is a win in everything, or you have to look for the win in everything, because how would you push for change if you just accept that this is the way that it has to be?
What about for you, Robin? And don't be afraid of bumming us out. It's okay.
Well, I think that like a lot of these things, you know, it's like, you know, when we watch like movies, there's like so many narratives of major Hollywood films are like there's an evil corporation and people band together and they fight it. Like that's how we all feel like we want to do the right thing, you know. I think we all are on the same side of the story, you know. I think we all care about the environment. We all, you know, we all don't want like polluting corporations to like ruin the planet. But I think that I think that like it is that Hollywood movie. It is that narrative that people connect to. And so, you know, Tara, this like story of these specific groups of people, it's like, you know, battling this one refinery, it's like that's something that people can connect to. So I think it's really important to just keep telling the stories, because it's like that, then you can put yourself into that situation. I think people's hearts are good intrinsically, and I think that we just have to like show people, connect people to these stories so that they can understand. You know, I think there's a lot of stuff that gets designed to be invisible. It's designed to not be a part of your consciousness. You know, it's like, you know, some people don't even know that plastic is like, it's the oil industry that creates the plastic, you know. And it's like knowing that like Coca-Cola is like the world's biggest plastic like creator. It's like you don't think about those things. But I think that like just telling stories and true and made up is going to help people, like the collective consciousness, you know, fuel the general outrage that will eventually, you know, hopefully make change, you know.
And in terms of your personal experiences, has the process of making your documentary, Tara, making this art project, Robin, has it made you rethink your role in all this, both as an individual and as someone who's, you know, participating in larger systems? Robin, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard question, because I have like a different relationship to plastic than a lot of people, because I collect it. And so I'm actually kind of like attracted to it in some ways, you know, like I'm looking at my studio now, it's like full of different colored plastic bags. I'm like, you know, there are certain colors that I'm really attracted to. So I'm always like looking at it and being disgusted, but also like coveting certain things. So I'm always like have this different mindset, you know, and I think about it all the time, obviously, when I'm in a grocery store, but I do think about it in relationship to the project. It's also a weird thing to be like a spokesperson for a certain thing that like I didn't necessarily mean to be. I was just like trying to make a funny puppet show, but then I feel like people, you know, really want to like hold me accountable for every choice that I make. And I'm definitely not trying to hold anyone accountable for their choices that they make. But I think that it's a weird, there's some weird new space to live in.
Yeah. Tara, what about you?
On a personal level, I making this film has made me realize that solutions are going to come from the people who are most affected. So I kind of reject this very bureaucratic way of thinking about where to go from here. I think that I've become very engaged on local levels in terms of just listening and thinking about where we can turn to move forward as a society, because the climate crisis has only gotten as bad as it has because we've continued to operate in one single way. And clearly the people who are governing are maintaining that status quo. And I think it's going to take a lot of radical change for things to get better. And the people who understand that the most are people like South Philly residents who have been affected by this the most.
I always love it when I leave films or plays or anything like that, asking myself questions. And I would love to hear from each of you as we wrap up here, whether there is a question you'd like us to ask ourselves after seeing your respective films. Robin?
Yeah. Well, I definitely have. I've said that like I don't have any answers. I'm just funny questions, I guess. Yeah. I hope that people leave seeing the plastic bag store with all kinds of questions. You know, I think that there's that project in particular. There's a lot of layers. So thinking about the past and the future and the present. And I hope that people leave more confused walked in, or just a little bit more like understanding the depth of some of these issues.
Tara, what about for you?
I think I'm going to leave it very vague. I think I would like people to ask themselves, is there an alternative to any way of thinking or any way of operating or living their lives that they do right now?
Well, Robin, Tara, I enjoyed both of your films immensely, and I can't wait for everyone else to see it. Thanks so much.
Well, it's been a very special opportunity for us to share in this space, share in this moment of co-creation with one another. So with a very deep sense of personal and collective gratitude, we want to thank Tara Eng, we want to thank Robin Frohart, and our moderator, Jen White, for that amazing segment. And also, we want to say special thanks to Miss Mary Carol Murphy, Ms. Angela Tovar, and of course, the leadership of Miss Anna Garcia Doyle. Thank you so much for being here. But this is not goodbye. This is see you soon, because we still have 11 days of top thought, provocative films to enjoy around different sites here in the Chicagoland region. We have an incredible slate of films that are available to our virtual audiences at home. And so we really encourage you to take this moment and run with it. It's our time to come together and turn the tide. And so, folks, for those of you at home, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. But for all of you still here at the plant, we want to invite you to continue the celebration downstairs with us. Please proceed with your masks until eating or drinking downstairs to the tap room. And we're going to continue the celebration. There will be festival hospitality until at least 8 o'clock, probably a little bit later. And we really want to encourage you to stick around and also invite others to join you here. We'll be playing trailers in the space so that you can see more of what we have in store for you this week. And also to our virtual guests, we also have 20 more minutes of content for you to enjoy. We look forward to you learning more about the history of the plant, its building, as well as its mission to build more sustainable and resilient systems here in Chicago as well as around the world. We'll hear more from founder John Adel and an interview about great beer and zero waste practices with Brian Taylor, brewmaster and co-founder of Whiner Beer Company taproom downstairs. So again, thank you so much. We'll see you soon and enjoy the fest.
Good evening, and welcome to the Zoom room. Welcome to the Zoom room for the launch party for this year's One Earth Film Festival. My name is Betsy Backus. I am an OEC board member, and I'm going to be your MC for the evening. We're going to spend a few minutes with John Adel, John is the founder of The Plant, and we are in a room of The Plant right now, and we're going to learn more about this amazing space and the food businesses incubator that it represents. So while we're waiting for him, let me tell you where we are. We are in Back of the Yards neighborhood in a building that was built in 1925 until 2015. This building was actually used for food processing, for pork processing. And since then, it has been completely repurposed. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about some of the businesses that are part of this evening. There are 22 businesses that are in this facility. And John Adel, who is going to be joining us in just a minute, is going to tell us much more about that. And here is John. And I think John's going to have a microphone in just a second. If he doesn't, I will hand him one.
Oh, here we go.
Perfect.
Hi.
Here we go. So
All
I'm
right.
just going to flip my little card, and I will tell you that John Adel is the founder and director of Bubbly Dynamics, which is the owner and operator of The Plant. The Plant is home to 22 businesses whose inputs and outputs are woven together as a living laboratory for the circular economy. Welcome, John.
Thank you. We're very glad to have you here today.
It's a thrill to be here. This is my first time in this building, and I will definitely make my way back here again very soon.
Always.
So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I know that you've done a lot of talking upstairs already, so we will get right down to business right now.
Okay.
We've got some questions for you.
All right. All right.
Okay, so the first question is, why an old meatpacking plant? What can a building like this do for modern food production?
Well, every building has strengths and weaknesses, and a facility like this was designed as a machine to make food, essentially. And so you could turn it into condos, but that would be a tremendous waste. A building like this has floor drains, these beautiful USDA grade brick floors, heavy mechanical systems, refrigeration, that kind of thing. And so we have to take advantage of that embodied energy and what this building can do well, and continue to do it. So it was a meatpacking plant, absolutely. And as the economy changes, as the world changes, we can find new things to do. Chicago has been the center of food innovation for 150 years, and so we continue to march forward.
Thank you, John. Next question: what is the future of the plant? Is this a replicatable? I butchered that word. Sorry, food joke. Is this a model that can be used in other places?
Yes. The future of the plant is it's going to continue to be a living laboratory where when we want to, we cut into the walls, we tie into the HVAC system, the electrical systems, whatever we want, so that we can circulate waste energy, waste food, oxygen, carbon dioxide, grains, heat, cold, all of these things from one business to another, so that we can shave some of the costs off for the small businesses that are here. So, and it doesn't have to be 100%. If you shave 5% of a cost for a small business, that's significant. And so the future of this is that we will continue to grow and change and modify the plan. And it's absolutely replicable. And there are, around the world, there are people doing little pieces of it. And they don't have to do the whole thing if you can just take a piece of it. And everything here is totally open source. Take a piece of it and run with it and do your own thing. And that's fabulous. Make more progress in a different direction.
Oh, John, that's just great. And then final question: what are some of the ways the plant combats climate change?
Well, there's lots of ways. There's lots of ways we combat climate change, by making these businesses more efficient. We are reducing the energy footprint and the material and the waste footprint significantly for food production. But a big piece of that is food is being produced locally and consumed locally. It's being paid for locally, and that money is staying closer to the community because the people that work in this building, there are over 100 people that work at the businesses in this building now. They spend their money here. They spend their money in the city. They spend it, where they in these small goals, which is a vastly more economically sustainable way of doing things. And so, as far as climate change goes, we're trying very hard in every possible direction we can to reduce the the materials and the inputs and the outputs, the mass balance of the food that's made. But really, the biggest single part of it is working within a facility that's nearly a century old, that still has a lot to give. It's still got another 100 years worth of hard work in it. Instead of tearing it down and building some new thing, a LEED platinum building, but you tore down an old building, you don't get, it doesn't make sense.
No, and it's not done yet. It's
Right.
not done. So the carbon footprint doesn't have to expand. We don't have to disturb the status quo.
Right.
And the idea that you can reinvent this building, make it relevant, take it forward, extraordinary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time. All right, we are going to move on now to Brian Taylor. So I'm looking for Brian. And Brian will be joining us in just a second, but let me tell you a little bit about Brian. Brian is the co-founder and brewmaster of Whiner Beer Company. And he is, it's one of the inspiring food businesses, of course, in this building. Welcome. I'm introducing you.
Oh, awesome.
There we go. In the building. And we're going to learn more about how his company makes delicious beer in a sustainable way. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for letting us. We are right now in your tap room.
Yeah. We actually met John, the founder of the building, way back in like 2013. I was currently working for Goose Island Brewery, which is like a local brewery here.
Okay.
And once the corporate giant Anheuser-Busch took over Goose Island, it was when I decided I wanted to kind of go do my own thing. And so I, had partners. Me and my friend Ria, we own the brewery together. We met John because of this space that was really, it didn't look like what it looks like today back then, but he had this vision of a sustainable workplace that really was almost like a vertical farm where food businesses worked together, worked as co-ops, where some person's waste could be another person's product, and that appealed to us. I don't know how far you want me to get into it, but we've always been into sustainability as far as Ria and I, because we were in the brewing industry for so long, and we know the waste that breweries create in just raw materials, water, grain, things like that. We're extremely wasteful. So I wanted to build a brewery with that in mind, and it's expensive to have that in mind when you build a brewery. So a great place to start is a place like this, where on day one, a company like John's can help you streamline all of these sustainable goals right away, basically.
Absolutely love that. And I love the idea that the warp and the weft of what's going on in this building is so thoughtful.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Absolutely love that. I think you've answered most of my questions. Let me just
I'm sorry.
make sure.
I went on
about
a
that.
ramble there.
No, I absolutely loved it. So we talked about, aside from tasting delicious, what's special about your beer in terms of sustainable brewing techniques? You nailed that already.
Well, we have a few cool things that we do that no breweries our size do. We do things like collecting spent CO2. So beer ferments, like me and you, it breathes in air, breathes out oxygen or CO2 at a much higher pace than me and you. So that creates emissions. We've developed a system where we run the CO2 up to the algae farm on the third floor. So the algae farm uses algae. Algae actually eats CO2 and creates oxygen. So it eliminates our waste, our CO2 waste, and it creates a product for them so they don't have to buy CO2. So it's things like that are, we actually do it. We don't have we have these ideas, but they're not really in place until we all get together and talk about it and see what each other's needs are, and then we
Love
work
it.
from there.
Absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. So what inspired you to explore green brewing? And I think it's the wastefulness you talked about before.
Absolutely. So I come from big breweries. So I worked for Boulevard Brewery in Kansas City, Flying Dog Brewery, and Goose Island. And all of them, this was in the 2000s and 2010s. And so wasteful. So like, just to give you a few data points, most breweries use about 10 barrels of water to get 1 barrel of beer.
Really?
So water is by far the most wasted source in a brewery. And so we've acted in many ways to limit that, where we're at 4 barrels of water for 1 barrel of beer. And what we do is simple collection of our spent water and use it for environmental cleaning, like cleaning floors. Nothing actually in the brewery, the beer itself. But adjusting pHs from the spent water, getting it to where it's at a 7 again, pH-wise, and then cleaning a tank with it or cleaning our canning line with it. And so water is our main goal of trying to save. But we also do, I think John probably mentioned, we collect our spent grain and compost it properly.
Wonderful.
Create soil out of it, and then we bag it up. We actually have farmers here that use our soil. There's 5 acres surrounding the building, and a couple companies operate their farms in the summertime, and they use our soil from our spent grain.
Which is amazing. I mean, we are in the city right now.
Yeah.
And to be able to do urban farming like that is absolutely extraordinary.
Totally.
I've taken a lot of your time, so let me just see if there's any. I think you've done everything. I absolutely appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. I'm glad to have you guys.
There you go. I'm going to be over for a beer in a minute, so
Okay.
please make sure you don't run out.
Sounds good.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will take that back from you.
Okay.
So for our last stop, we're going to leave you with some action items for turning the tide on our climate emergency. We'll be visiting with some One Earth action partners for a trivia contest. Our first action partner is Mary Beth Shea. I'm looking for Mary Beth Shea, who is coming toward us right now. Welcome, Mary Beth. Thank you very much. Mary Beth Shea of Collective Resource Compost. Mary Beth, will you tell us about yourself and your organization?
I would love to do that.
Thank you.
I am a zero waste consultant for Collective Resource Compost, and we are a woman-owned, Evanston-based. You like that?
Love Evanston.
Container swapping, food scrap haul-in business that aims to make composting easy for everyone so that everyone will do it.
That is absolutely terrific.
That's us in a nutshell.
Well, I like that nutshell. Thank you very much. Now, what question do you have for our viewers at home, or our home audience?
Well, not surprisingly, it's about composting. Diverting your food scraps through composting, 1, mitigates climate change, aka turns the tide, by reducing the amount of methane released in the atmosphere. 2, creates a nutrient-rich soil amendment that helps retain moisture and promote seed germination. 3, leads to other sustainable practices. Or 4, all of the above.
All
So what
right.
do you think, Betsy?
So, viewers at home, think about these choices for a moment. Come up with the answer in your mind. What is the correct answer?
It's all of the above.
It is all of the above. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much.
Yes. And so can I tell you this other thing?
Yes, please.
So we are super, super excited for the first year ever to be sponsors of the One Earth Film Festival.
Thank you for that.
And we are very happy to be participating in tabling at the Park Ridge showing of the Plastic Bag Store, the film. And I'm so excited to see it again.
That is absolutely wonderful. Thank you again. Thank you for being a sponsor as well. And
Thank
thank
you.
for playing our game with us this evening. I'm going to take that back from you. Thank you. I am looking for Amaris. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Hello. Amaris Alanis Ribeiro. Not even close.
That's okay. Amaris.
Amaris.
Mhm.
I am so very glad to meet you, environmentalists of color.
That's right.
Welcome to our showcase this evening. Would you tell us a bit about yourself and your organization, and then of course hit us with your trivia this evening?
Sure. So again, my name is Amaris, and tonight I'm representing Environmentalist of Color. Environmentalist of Color is a member-driven network. We're really a catalyst for racial equity in the environmental field. And we have a trivia question for y'all tonight.
What is it?
Well, it's very related to what we do. And so the question is, what percent of full-time staff at non-governmental organizations are people of color, according to the 2021 Green 2.0 NGO and Foundation Transparency Report Card? The options are 29.8%, 10.5%, 45%, or 63.2%. What do you all think?
Okay, viewers, what do you think? Think about your answer. Come up with your final answer. What is the correct answer?
The correct answer is 29.8%.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the diversity in the field is increasing. However, we all know that representation is not the only thing. We have a lot more work to do in equity and environmental justice. So I invite you all to join efforts such as Environmentalists of Color and other groups that are fighting that fight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will take that back from you. And I will now call up Samantha. Thank you, Samantha.
Yeah, hi.
Samantha Shore of Repley.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, you nailed
is with us this evening. Tell us about yourself and your organization.
Yeah, I'm Sam Shore. I'm a customer success manager at Repley. Repley is a climate tech startup focused on catalyzing the circular economy. We provide a platform that serves as an online marketplace for reuse, helping to make resources more visible and useful at the organizations where they live.
Absolutely fantastic. Tell us about your trivia question for this evening.
Okay, so the building sector is by far the largest waste offender in the world. Materials are harvested from the earth and manufactured to support the construction of roughly 400 million square feet of commercial office space per year, and that's just the United States. If only half of the U.S. commercial office spaces were constructed of 50% reclaimed materials, it would equal A, 5 million tons of CO2 reduction, B, 10 million tons of CO2 reduction, C, 20 million tons of CO2 reduction, or D, 50 million tons of CO2 reduction.
Okay, viewers, what's the right answer? Think about this. Okay, you've had enough time to think about this. And now you could probably even hear me. Sam, what's the right answer?
The right answer is C, 20 million tons of CO2 reduction.
It's amazing. Can you talk more about that?
I would love to. Commercial reuse, if adopted at scale, is simply unmatched in its impact, speed of implementation, and carbon savings potential.
It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to thank our action partners this evening, and I want to thank Mary Beth. I want to thank Amaris, and I want to thank my good friend Sam. And now I want to tell you also that we will be choosing a winner from among tonight's at-home contestants, and they will win a copy of the book, this book, All We Can Save, along with free tuition to our 6 books starting. I want to thank again all of our action partners, and I want to thank all of you viewing tonight. We hope that you enjoyed yourselves. We certainly enjoyed being with you. If you would like to chat amongst yourself for a few more minutes, we will keep the Zoom room open for another 15 to 20 minutes. Please don't forget to plan your fest week and book your. See you at the fest.